Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about how to talk to your child about weight gain. So in this video, I'm going to share some stories from my life, and then I'm going to talk about things that you can do to have really good, productive conversations with your children about their weight. If you've been watching this channel for a while, then you know that my look has really transformed over the years. In 2020, when I started this channel, I was easily 100 pounds heavier than I am today. So I have lost a lot of weight. But what a lot of people don't know is that prior to that weight loss, when I had to do a really extreme liver cleanse and then finally get my body balanced out so that it would actually lose the weight, I had tried for so long to get my body to get itself regulated. It was really disheartening for me. I exercised every single day. I was jogging, I was walking, I was doing Tai Chi, I was doing Tai Bo, I was doing so many things, and I was eating out of my garden, fresh everything. I couldn't eat gluten because I have celiac disease, and yet the weight would not come off. In fact, it was starting to just add on because I'm in my 40s, and so that's what happens sometimes when you're in your 40s. And then finally found out, oh, my hormones were not balanced properly with my liver, and so that was causing an issue. And then we got that fixed, and the weight just slowly came off over the period of like a year and a half. And you can see that transformation happen right here on the channel, which I definitely did not plan on. I think I've only talked about it once or twice, but it did happen. So our children sometimes can be just experiencing problems with their weight when they're not necessarily trying to be unhealthy. It could be something that is out of balance within themselves. And so we've got to be very careful to just understand that when it comes to weight, all people are created uniquely, right? We all are our own people. Everybody's got their own shape, their own size, and we need to be somewhat okay with that. But we also have to recognize that our children may not be trying to eat unhealthy. They might be trying to do all the right things, and for whatever reason, their body chemistry, their balance is off. That doesn't mean that we don't help them try to do something about that if at all possible, and we certainly should have conversations about weight and about good health, and make a plan for what we can do for the future. But we need to make sure that we don't use our looks as a way to shame or to elevate other people. It's actually kind of sad that since I lost a lot of weight, that there are people who have reached out to me in other ways when they didn't before, because I guess people do really judge a book by its cover. So anyway, talking to your children about their weight can be one of those very difficult topics, a kind of more of a touchy subject to approach with your children, because you don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want them to think that you don't accept them. You don't want to make it a really big deal. We don't want to talk about it too much either. We just want to help them be able to go through life feeling confident, happy, and healthy. But the truth is, when a person is overweight, they don't feel as confident usually as other people. And giving them excuses for their weight is not a good thing to do, because that doesn't help them develop an honest view of themselves and true confidence in their ability to self-govern. So this channel is called the Teaching Self-Government channel, and truly the way that I lost my weight was by self-government. So I did some testing, some DNA testing for my body. We found out that my liver was holding hormone, and that was causing a problem. And so then I said, okay, well, I'm going to do a liver cleanse to get that thing sorted out. That took a lot of self-government. It was a very intense liver cleanse, very strict, very low calorie, very boring food. It was difficult, and I did it for 6 weeks, and I thought, if I can do this for 6 weeks, I could do anything forever. There is never anything I can't do when it comes to food after this. And so then I just developed, okay, here's the formula. Here's how many calories I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat 1,200 calories until I get to the weight that I want. And I'm going to have the balance of my macros be like this because that's good for my body type. And then I'm going to eat healthy just like I always had. And I just carried on. And this is how I did my weight loss, and it just fell off. So it was self-government. So oftentimes children struggle with self-governing lots of things in their life, and what they eat can be part of the problem, especially if they've been introduced to foods that are not so good for them. Foods that maybe have lots of sugars, lots of white flours, lots of fats, those types of things. And so they're just eating what tastes good, and they sometimes have to teach themselves how to eat things that don't taste like what they might be craving. They have to have a bigger picture view of their health. One of the biggest things that you can do when you're starting to have conversations with your children about weight, whether it's gaining weight or losing weight, is that we need to just talk about being healthy. Being healthy, being strong, being able to have the type of body that can do the things we want to do in our lives or that we feel we need to do in our lives. One of the biggest reasons I finally decided to go and get those tests and see if something chemically was off in my body was because I had my daughter expecting my first grandchild, and I realized that I didn't like to get on the floor. My legs would fall asleep. My back would be very uncomfortable. I didn't like it, and I didn't want to be the type of grandma that didn't want to get on the floor with her children and her grandchildren. So I had to change. That was the desire. Usually a person needs to have a desire. So talking to your child and saying, let's talk about what we feel like good health is for us. What does it mean when you're healthy? How do you feel? And what does it look like to be healthy? And what are your health goals? And then say, that's really good to have those types of health goals. What are some of your other goals that you have? Oh, well, I want to do this in sports, or I want to do this in business, or I want to be this type of a mother or a father. Okay, what type of abilities physically do you want to have when you're doing those things? Like, what kind of activities do you want to engage in? Having a big picture view of yourself and your life and where your life is going can sometimes make you see the details for what they are. So you might just ask a question. Well, do you think that there's anything that we should be focusing on right now in order to help you get your body ready to accomplish those goals? Because we always have to be preparing for who it is that we're supposed to become. What is it that you're supposed to do with your life? You've got to get ready, right? When they're children, they're very aware that they're growing up. So that right there is a good reason to work on the weight. So after you've had a conversation where they get some buy-in about what the long view is for their health, then you say, well, how about we make a health plan? I'm going to do it with you. I want a health plan. In fact, if you do a healthy eating plan, that would benefit me. We could do it together. Just in case your child is an obliger, which, by the way, I have videos about all the different tendencies here on the channel, and there is one about being an obliger. So if your child is an obliger, they won't follow through with anything related to their health unless they know they're doing it for somebody else. So that's another reason why you might want to join in with them on this. So you do whatever type of health plan, whether it's exercise or whether it's eating certain things and eating right, whatever it is, you do it with them, and then say, let's track ourselves and see how we do. And I highly recommend apps like MyFitnessPal. I use that. I type in every single thing that I eat. It helps me be able to know what I should do better the next day. And of course, I weigh myself every single day. But if you're going to have a health plan, then maybe you can say, let's weigh ourselves every day, and let's make a plan for our eating and our exercise, and let's just track it. Let's just self-govern it and see what we can track about ourselves. Maybe we'll be able to see how many calories we actually eat and see if we want to pare it back and what kind of treat we want to give ourselves at the end of the day when we've hit most of our calories. We save that last little 100 calories for some sort of little treat for ourselves or something. So make a little plan that seems like it will work for them and be their buddy on it. If they're not willing to have the conversation, don't make a huge deal out of it. It is much better for you to have a healthy bond and relationship and outlook rather than to put additional stress on them. If they deal with depression and thoughts of self-loathing, all the more reason you don't want to make weight a super big deal. It is true that it can be an obstacle for their lives, for relationships and jobs and all kinds of things. If you can work on it, the better, but we don't want to over talk it or micromanage it, because the relationship that they have with you is the absolute most important. This whole channel is about relationships. That's what I talk about here: relationships, skills, how self-government can help you improve your family bonds. There's actually a whole full-length class on this channel all about self-government, and it's called The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success. Those skills that are talked about in that video, skills like accepting no answers and following instructions and accepting consequences, 3 of those 4 basic skills are going to directly apply to self-governing any eating or exercise or healthy program that you put together for you and your children. Leave me a comment and tell me how it goes with your conversation and with your program. In fact, you might help other people too as you put some of your ideas into action.